Hey guys, it's Emily and I am so incredibly excited for today's video because I am going to be doing another reading vlog where I read a booktuber's favorite books. Today's booktubers is one of my all-time favorites and it is none other than Alexandra Roselyn. I absolutely love Lexi's content. Her love for books is simply infectious. I want to read everything that she recommends. Her taste is simply immaculate and so I am so excited for this TBR. Now, I feel like it's kind of hard to summarize Lexi's reading taste because she reads everything. She reads romance, she reads middle grade, she reads fantasy, she reads contemporary, she reads nonfiction. She really reads everything and I feel like her reading taste is very eclectic and it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint exactly what she likes, and so that's why you'll see this TBR is a little bit of everything and I am very much looking forward to that. The first book that I am going to be reading for this reading vlog is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't include this book in this reading vlog because it is one of Lexi's favorite books of all time, if not her favorite book of all time, and so I just simply had to add it to this reading list. It is a Greek mythology retelling that follows Achilles and Patroclus, and it is a book that is quite popular. A lot of people have read it and I feel like especially in the last couple of years it has kind of regained popularity because of book talk, and I've been very curious to read it because a lot of people simply sob reading this book. We'll see if I will be crying during this book, but I've heard that it's a very sad story but a very beautiful one. The next book that I will be reading is Mythos by Stephen Fry. I'm a little bit cheating with this one because I did already start reading this. I remember Lexi talking about this back, I believe it was in December or maybe January. I feel like she received this for Christmas or something and that's where she first mentioned it. But I remember Lexi talking about this one, and when I heard her talk about it, I knew I had to get it, and so I did. I started reading this back in January or February, the beginning of the year, and I did really like it. I made it to page 112 and I was really enjoying my reading experience, but for some reason at the time I put down the book and I never really picked it back up again. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to finally finish this book. I am also going to be listening to the audiobook while reading this one because if you didn't know, Stephen Fry has an amazing narrating voice. He's an awesome narrator, and if you guys have not listened to a Stephen Fry audiobook, you're missing out. But I will be doing both, so I'll be enjoying the physical copy because it's very pretty, as well as listening to the audiobook for this one. This is another Greek mythology book because this is Stephen Fry's reimagining of the Greek myths, and so I am looking forward to continuing reading this because I was really enjoying myself. The third book on my TBR for this reading vlog is Neon Gods by Katie Robert, and now I'm realizing that this is the third Greek mythology retelling book that I have on my TBR for this vlog, but that's okay because I love Greek mythology and I know Lexi does too. But this is a Greek mythology retelling of Hades and Persephone and it's supposed to be quite spicy but also quite fun, so I am very much looking forward to reading this one. I have read some Katie Robert books in the past and she's kind of a hit or miss author for me. Lexi's given both of the books in the series so far a 5 out of 5 stars, so I've been quite curious to read them. The next book on my TBR is going to be The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. A lot of people loved it back in 2020 when this one was first released. It made it to a lot of people's favorite books of the year list, and Lexi was one of the booktubers that really loved this book, and so I really wanted to read this. I've been told that this is kind of a middle grade for adult book as well as very Pixar-esque, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I've heard that the prose is beautiful. Another book that makes people cry because it's so beautiful. It's about Linus Baker, who is kind of a social worker but for magical children, and he goes to visit this house in the Cerulean Sea in order to evaluate the children and see if they are well taken care of, and I believe falls in love with the man who's taking care of this house. So I am so excited for this because I've heard so much hype surrounding it. And the final book that we'll be reading for this TBR is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a book that I've been meaning to read for quite some time, but Lexi's kind of the one who convinced me to read it because when she did her Dark Academia video, she really loved this one and she kind of sold it as a murder mystery that takes place at Yale and it also features ghosts. And I don't know about you, but that's all I need to know. I know it's kind of a divisive book. People either love it or hate it, and I don't know which side of the bandwagon I'm on. Hopefully I like it, but it's a book that I've been meaning to read because I love Leigh Bardugo, and also there's a sequel that's coming out like in the next couple of months, and so I feel like it's a perfect time for me to finally give this one a try. So that is my TBR for this video. Like I said before, so incredibly excited to start reading, but before we can do that I need to go purchase some of the books because I don't own a copy of The Song of Achilles or of Ninth House. So we're gonna do something that Lexi does quite often in her vlogs, and that is book shopping. So we're gonna go to the bookstore and try to find a copy of The Song of Achilles as well as Ninth House, and I guess I'll bring you guys along and we'll try to see if they have that at the bookstore or if I have to order it online. Okay, I feel like the lighting is kind of crap, so we'll make this clip quite quick. But I have acquired The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. They also had Ninth House, but they had like this weird paperback that was like tiny and not really floppy, and if I'm going to get that book, I want to have an edition that I'm going to enjoy reading. So I'll go to the other bookstore that we have at the mall. I'm right across the street, so I only have to go there. If they don't have another version of Ninth House, I'll order that one online, but at least we have one of the books. And now I also have to run some errands, so not only am I going to go to the other bookstore, I haven't seen it since they relocated it, so I'm quite curious to see what it looked like, but I also have a couple of errands to run, so let's go to the mall. I feel like I'm in How I Met Your Mother with that, but whatever. Alright, so it is now a little bit later, and by that I mean it's several hours later, and I'm about ready to go unwind for the evening. But before I do that, I just wanted to do a little recap of what happened since I last updated you. So I did end up going to the mall, I did some damage at Sephora, I went to that other bookstore, but the layout wasn't really ideal for filming, so I didn't film anything there. I also didn't find Ninth House there, so I'll have to order a copy online, which I'm okay with. But now I think we're going to start reading finally in this vlog, and I think I'm going to start with Mythos by Stephen Fry. Not only because I've already started this, like I said before, I'm on page 112 and I've been meaning to finish this book for quite some time now, so I think it's going to be the ideal way for me to finally get around to reading it. And so we're gonna start with this, but also because I am reading a couple of Greek myth retellings in this vlog, and I feel like since this is kind of the anthology where it kind of explains and reimagines a little bit the Greek myth, I just thought that this would be ideal. For example, Hades and Persephone are mentioned in this, and I just feel like it is a good pairing. It will be a good entry point before I dive into the other Greek myth later on this week. So I am very excited to read this. So far, I have really enjoyed my reading experience, though I'll be honest, listening to the audiobook and reading the physical copy has been a little bit of a challenge in the past, especially at first, because sometimes the layout on the page here is not the same as the way Stephen Fry says it in the book. So for example, there's a lot of footnotes, and sometimes the order is not the same as what you would see in the book. It's hard to explain because you really have to experience it in order to understand what I'm saying here, but it was a little bit difficult to understand at first, but now I feel like it's easier for me to listen and read at the same time. I really like Stephen Fry's narration. I love the way he is retelling these myths. I think it's going to be the perfect self-care evening tonight. I'm feeling like doing a face mask. I also need to do like a foot bath or like soak or something, because I noticed that I had a little bit of dry skin, and so I feel like it would be just like the perfect way to do a little bit of self-care, read my book or listen to my audiobook while I do that. And so I'm going to take you guys along for this cozy evening of self-care. Alright my friends, so it is time for a reading update. I feel like this cap is just making me darker. Hopefully that's a little better. But I have finished reading Mythos by Stephen Fry, which I am so happy about because I started this book back in February, and several months later, here we are. So I really enjoyed my reading experience of this. However, I do want to note that if you're going to read this, I would highly recommend either listening to the audiobook or reading the physical copy. Like, both have their own advantages, but pairing them together, not the best idea. At first I had a lot of difficulty following because there were times where Stephen Fry was retelling what he had written, meaning that he wasn't using the exact same words that were written on the page. And also there's a lot of jumping around because of the footnotes, so it is confusing at times. It's very chaotic, and I even towards the end I had to like pause sometimes because there would be more information in the book than was provided in the audiobook, or the opposite, like it just wasn't told in the same way. Like there was one appendix, for example, that was told completely out of order. So just know that diving into it, I think I would recommend like either or, but not pairing them together. But both are really amazing. Like the physical copy has a lot of images and it's very detailed, and it's a really beautiful book too, but the audiobook is narrated by Stephen Fry, so it is amazing because obviously it's Stephen Fry. But as for the content of this book, I think it's a really great starting point for beginners. If you're not used to reading about Greek myths, if you don't know a lot about them, this would be a great starting point. I'm someone who knew a bit from different retellings that I've read in the past, but didn't know each story in depth, and I found that this was a good entry point because it was easy to understand. It was told in a kind of like in a fairy tale format. It just follows different stories, and I like the way that it was told. The writing style is very engaging, and I had a lot of fun reading this, so I would recommend this. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I just felt like some stories were a little underdeveloped and some overly explained, or some that went like above and beyond, and some that just left me on my hunger, I guess. Like I just wanted more for some of them. For example, I wanted to know more about Hades and Persephone because I've seen so many retellings of this one, but it was barely like a page long in the book, and it was very straightforward. And maybe it's because the original myth itself is very small and not very detailed. I just wanted more out of it. However, I do understand that Stephen Fry had to make choices, and maybe some stories had to be shorter for this book to be, because it's already like a pretty big book. So if we were going in depth with each story, we would have like a big chunky beast, whereas this is like a reasonable length. One story that I absolutely fell in love with, and I really want to read more retellings of that, is Eros and Psyche. Man, am I obsessed with their story. It's probably the best one, the one that stood out to me the most out of this entire book. I just love this one. It was probably like a couple of pages long, like probably 10 or so, and I just felt like I was reading a full story, whereas some of the others were really short, like a paragraph long, and this one was just very detailed. We went really in depth into like the characters, their motivations and everything, and I really enjoyed that about it. I really want to read more retellings of that, so I will be looking for some of those, and if you guys have recommendations, make sure to leave them down below. But yeah, I really enjoyed my reading experience. I already knew I was going to like this diving into it, as I had already started it before starting this vlog, but you know, I'm glad that I read this first because now it makes me excited to read some of the retellings that we have for this vlog specifically, so I'm excited about that. But to be honest, now I kind of want a little break from the Greek mythology. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy mythos, but I want to read something different. So I think we're going to go with some of our picks that are not Greek mythology related, and I'm going to go with The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Ooh, my bookmark fell. I had already picked it. It's one my sister gave to me when she came back from a trip to Cuba, I think, and I just thought that it matched like the tone of the audiobook, like the cover and the fact that it's a fish and like sea, I guess, related things, and this is set at sea, I guess. I am quite excited to get started with this one because I've heard so much praise for it. I have a feeling that this is going to be a 5-star, but I don't want to put, you know, too much hope out there, because what if I'm disappointed, you know? But I have really high hopes for this one, so you know what, let's just get started. Also, side note, but I don't think I had mentioned it, but I did receive my copy of Nine House by Leigh Bardugo. It is absolutely stunning. Look at these end pages, and I am so excited to read it. I'm a little scared too, not gonna lie, but look at how beautiful it is. Like, damn, I am obsessed. I thought for some reason that I had ordered the paperback, but the hardcover came in, and when I checked my order back, I had ordered the hardcover. So I guess for reading the hardcover, I don't really care, but wow, it's beautiful. And it's also quite thick, so hopefully I will like it, but yeah, just thought I would mention it. So I finished reading The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I think this may be one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, if not my absolute favorite that I've read thus far. And I don't say this lightly, I also think this is a new all-time favorite. Yeah, I loved it. This was simply incredible. I think Victoria Schwab said it best when she said, "It's like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket. Simply perfect." Quite frankly, there's no better way of describing this book. I don't remember who said it, but it reads like a Pixar movie. Honestly, it reads like you are watching, or in this case reading, a Pixar film. It has the atmosphere of one, and I loved it. Like, I loved every single second of this book. I wish I could read it again for the first time, because I don't think I will ever experience this book in the same way. I truly loved everything about this book, the world building, the characters, the atmosphere, the vibe, the ambiance. I have no way to put into words how I'm feeling towards this book. I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit. Like for the first 100 pages or so, I wasn't sure I was gonna like it, simply because Linus is very set in his ways at the beginning of the book, and I think it's a beautiful journey to see him grow and like go through this development and change his ways. But it took me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, before getting into it, but once I did, oh my god, I was in like 100% full steam. I just loved it. I devoured this book in less than like 48 hours, which doesn't really happen to me anymore. Like I do read books quite quickly, but this one I just couldn't put down. Like I had trouble physically putting the book down. I had to force myself to do it, which once again doesn't happen very often. The writing was incredible. I just loved every second of this book, and I understand why Lexi loves it so much. I understand the hype. I cannot believe it took me this long to read it, and now I want to read everything that TJ Klune has ever written, because I have a feeling that he's an author that I might really enjoy, because I really love the writing in this, and like the vibes and the ambiance and just like the themes and everything. I just loved every second of this, and I have a feeling that I might enjoy other things that he has written. I know he has quite the extensive backlist, so I'll be looking into that for sure, but this was amazing. Like, yeah, astonishing, incredible, fantastic. I have no words. Like I'm trying to express how I'm feeling, but I just really don't have the words to say how I feel about this book. It's just so good. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't read it yet. So for my next read, I have chosen The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I've actually already started reading this one. I am on page 58, and so far I am quite liking it. I was a little afraid diving into this one because I have tried reading Madeline Miller before. I tried reading Circe, and both times I DNF'd it after like 30 pages. I just really couldn't get into the book, and I was afraid that the same thing was going to happen with this one. But so far it's been quite the opposite. I have been very interested in seeing where the story is going, and in this one we're following Patroclus. When he is a child, something terrible happens, and he is then sent to another kingdom. He's exiled, he cannot come back to his own, so he's sent away, and then he meets Achilles. Achilles and Patroclus become friends very fast, and I'm guessing that from there their relationship will grow and develop into maybe even something more, maybe lovers, maybe something more than friends. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm not too familiar with the myth, but I am quite eager to see what the hype is all about, because the hype is real with this one, not only because Lexi loves it, but overall. I know it's an overall favorite for a lot of people, and so I really hope that I will like it. I know it's very hyped on Book Talk, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this one, so hopefully I will like it as much as everyone else does. I have finished reading The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I'll be honest, I don't really know where to begin. I don't really know how to review this book without spoiling it. I want to say that I enjoyed it. I did really like seeing the relationship between Patroclus and Achilles bloom into what it became, and I think it's a very beautifully written book. I can understand why a lot of people love it, but for me it didn't completely live up to my expectations. I think in terms of rating I probably would give it like a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, but at the same time I feel like if I had known more about the Trojan War, or maybe had read the Iliad beforehand, I probably would have enjoyed this a lot more. I think it's the kind of book that I will enjoy more upon a reread. I can see the substance and like the analysis that I could make of this book, but upon this first read, obviously I just wanted to soak in the story and understand what all the hype is about. I do see it. I understand it. I think I was expecting the ending. I did not cry. I think diving into this knowing that this was a sad book, I was already pretty much expecting the ending that we got. I think one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy this as much as I wanted to is because the second half of the book is very much focused on the war, and I'm not someone who typically enjoy war stories, so this one I was a little bit bored through the second half of the book because of that. But it's not that it was boring, because it wasn't necessarily like war and like action scenes all throughout, but it got a little bit less interesting for me in the second part of the book, and I think that may be why I didn't love this one as much as I thought I would. Overall, for me, I think it's probably more of a 3.5 or 4 stars. I'm not too sure. Like, I've been pondering on my reading for a couple of days now, because I finished this book 2 days ago, and I'm still unclear about how I feel about it, because I did really like it. But as I was saying, I think it's the kind of book that I will appreciate so much more upon a second reread. So I did like it, but it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. As for my next read, I'm not too sure, because I'll be honest, I'm leaving for vacation in less than 24 hours, so I'm going to be going to Chicago and then to Miami. I am bringing Neon Gods with me, so that might be what I end up reading, but I do want to read Ninth House too, so I don't know if I'll be reading Neon Gods before Ninth House. Probably. I'm not too sure. I'm not bringing Ninth House with me because I will not have the space for that in my luggage. I'm already bringing 2 paperbacks, so I'm not going to be able to bring Ninth House as well because I have the big hardcover version, as you guys saw. So I'm not too sure, but I will keep you guys updated. I might include a little bit of footage from my trip. So I finished reading Neon Gods by Katie Robert, and it was a pretty on par experience for me with what I've read from Katie Robert so far, meaning I liked the plot part of things, and I wish there had been more plot and world building and less sex scenes. I think Katie Robert easily falls into the habit, I guess, of stringing one sex scene after the other, and it kind of made me realize that Katie Robert is less of a romance writer and more of an erotica one, which there's nothing bad with that if that's what you're looking for, but I always pick up her books hoping to get like a resemblance of romance, and when I do get that, I think she's more focused on the like sexual chemistry between the characters and less about like their development and their growth as characters. One of my favorite things about romances is the character development part of things, or just like the development of the relationship outside of sex, like the tension between 2 characters, like the yearning and just like wanting them to get together. That's what I like about a romance, and I feel like Katie Robert doesn't really do that, and that's okay. It's just less my thing. So I'm giving this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars, maybe 3. I'm probably going to round it up to 3 on Goodreads. I also thought that the portrayal of Hades was quite interesting. It reminded me a lot of Lore Olympus for some reason, like the way that Hades was portrayed. I think it's kind of different from what we've seen from other Hades and Persephone retellings, or just like books where Hades is part of things, and I liked that about it. One thing though, I think if you enjoyed this book, you would really enjoy the Wicked Villain series, because to me this book was basically a retelling, or not a retelling, but another version of Desperate Measures, which is the first book in the series. That might be one of the reasons why I ended up not loving this one as much as I hoped I would. That's because it reminded me so much of Wicked Villains, and I gave Desperate Measures 3 stars, and I feel like my rating for Neon Gods is pretty similar in that sense. So yeah, overall I can see why people would like this, especially since I know Lexi is not someone who has read a lot of romances. I think she's pretty new to the genre, so I would understand why she would really like this. But as someone who has read a lot of romance, and I know what I like in romances, I didn't enjoy this one nearly as much as I hoped I would. Now, that being said, I am curious to read the rest of the series. I know that Katie Robert will tackle different Greek deities or just like Greek myth, so I am very curious, especially as the next one is about Eros and Psyche. And as you guys may know, I think it was in this vlog that I mentioned it, but I really want to read more Eros and Psyche retellings because I really loved reading Stephen Fry's version of it, and it just made me really interested in the story. So I am probably going to pick up the sequel. I guess we'll see, but it's not something that I'm like eager to pick up, but I do want to check it out eventually. So now with that brings us to the very last book of this reading vlog, which is none other than Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I actually already started reading this yesterday. I read like not very much. I only read the first 18 pages of this book, and it's already super fucking weird. I was not expecting it to be like bam in your face type of weird, but I guess this is what this book is going to be like. So I kind of need to just reevaluate my expectations, because I was expecting it to be more on like the contemporary side of things, less weird and more dark academia, and this is like full on weird. Like there's ghosts, there's like weird arcane like medicine going on, there's like weird rituals happening. I just need to be aware of that, I think, now diving into this. But I am quite curious because I know that this is a very like hit or miss book for people, so I am very curious to see which side of the bandwagon I'll fall on. But I guess I need to read more in order to give you guys my full on like fleshed out thoughts, so let's do that. I don't know how to say this, but I think this might be getting a 5 out of 5 stars. I know, right? I'm as flabbergasted as you guys probably are. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting this out of this book. I started reading this and I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it. I thought it was pretty average. Like for the first half of the book, I understood why people would like this because like it's very atmospheric and it's kind of spooky, kind of creepy. It starts very rough, like it starts and it's graphic. It made me have some like physical reactions to what was happening in the book. But the first half felt kind of flat for me, but then the second half was like incredible. I finished this book and I was like, oh my god, I loved it. And having finished the book, I'm thinking, oh, I understand why it started the way that it did now. So I'm not sure about my rating because I really loved it. Like I really loved what it did, but I did have a hard time getting into it. So maybe it's more of a 4 stars, but like enjoyment wise, it's probably more of a 5 stars. I've been pondering because I finished this book like 2 days ago and I'm still not sure how to rate this because it was such an experience. Like for me, things really started to pick up in the second half, as I was saying before, but the last like 50 to 100 pages were simply incredible. It was plot twist after plot twist. It kept me on my toes. It kept surprising me. I was reading this at night and I was like, oh my god, I can't put this down. I can go to bed until I finish this book because I need to know what happens next. And I don't remember the last time I've had a similar feeling for a book. So that's why I'm considering the 5 stars because honestly, even though like it wasn't a perfect book, it was great. Like I had a great time reading it overall, and yes, it took me a little bit more energy to get through it first, but in the end it was so worth it, and I'm so glad that I stuck with it because for a while I thought about DNFing it because honestly it just fell flat to me. The main character was a little bit one-dimensional when it first started, but the more it went on, the more we got to know her, and she's very unhinged, and I love Alex. Oh my god. Anyway, I think this is the kind of book that you need not to know a lot about diving into. So I feel like the murder mystery with ghost description that I had in mind fits the bill, but at the same time, I think if you're diving into it expecting a murder mystery, you're gonna be disappointed because it doesn't really start until like the halfway point. Like yes, the murder happens early on in the book, but it takes our main character like 200 pages to finally start solving the murder and like finally start like getting answers, and it doesn't follow the typical structure of a mystery book. So that's one of the reasons why I think I was disappointed, because I was expecting something that was moving forward a lot more. But I think like it still involves like a big part of the plot, especially in the second half, is about solving this murder, and eventually it turns into more than that. But the ghost part is absolutely true. You do get like a lot of mentions of ghosts and magic and dark stuff, like the occult. Like I think that's the best way of describing it. It's really dark magic, but it's really fun. Basically, this is a book about secret societies that dabble into magic at Yale. And it involves ghosts and there's a murder on the side. I think that's the best way of describing it without building too many expectations for it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very atmospheric. Like if you're looking for a dark academia book to read during the month of October, this is it. Like honestly, would absolutely recommend. I am very much looking forward to reading the second book. I don't think I would have been able to wait 4 years. Like if I had read this in 2019, I don't know how I would have survived, because yeah, honestly, the ending, the cliffhanger, I'm just like, thank God it's coming out in January, because honestly, yeah, I don't know how I would have made it. So I guess let's conclude this reading experiment. I had so much fun filming this one, and I don't know how it'll show off on camera because it took me like 2 months to film this video, which I really hope that it's not too all over the place. I really hope that I was able to make something like cohesive, but I guess you guys will have to tell me. I had so much fun reading those books and filming this video. Overall, like, I enjoyed everything that I read, except for one book that I enjoyed less than the rest, but I think it's safe to say that I can trust Lexi's recommendations because her taste aligns with mine, which is awesome because I love Lexi's channel, I love her content, so I'm really glad to say that I am able to trust her when it comes to book recommendations. Now, in true Lexi fashion, we're gonna be ranking the books that I've read for this video in order of my enjoyment level. At number 5, at the bottom of the list, we have Neon Gods by Katie Robert. I enjoyed that one, but it's the one that I've enjoyed the least out of everything that I've read for this video. So I would recommend it if you're looking for something spicy, but if you've read a lot of Katie Robert or just romance in general like I have, you might be disappointed by this one. Then at number 4, we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I've enjoyed this one, don't get me wrong, but out of everything that I've read, this is probably another one that I've enjoyed a little bit less than I thought I would. I think think I was a little bit let down because my expectations were so high, but I would still absolutely recommend it if you guys haven't read it. It made me want to read more Madeline Miller because I really liked her writing. Next, I think I'm going to put Mythos by Sir Stephen Fry. Once again, really loved it. I think it's a really great entry point into Greek mythology if you're looking to get to know the Greek myth. This is a great starting point. I would also recommend the audiobook for this one because it's narrated by Stephen Fry. Then I think I'm going to go with Nine House by Leigh Bardugo. As I said, very much surprised by how much I ended up enjoying this one. It's super dark, super creepy, super spooky, and I really loved it. And finally, at number 1, we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I absolutely love this one. It's my new convert read. I want to reread it at some point, and it's absolutely my favorite book that I've read so far this year, so thank you so much, Lexi, for recommending this book. So this is my ranking plus Neon Gods at the bottom. As I was saying before, I really enjoyed my experience with this video. Hopefully you guys will have enjoyed it too. Let me know in the comments down below which booktuber you'd like me to tackle next, and I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!